person, what questions should they ask? If you're going in for couples counseling, do the therapist have to be married? No. Can they be divorced? Yes. But you would want to know, what did they learn from that? If they are divorced, you would want to know that they've had a healthy relationship before.
Right.
I am less prone to talk with a person who is single because I have a wife and a family and the kids. And I would like for them to know that all of that is relevant, right? But those things may be, for me, they would be important. For somebody else, they might not be. I would like for somebody that's culturally competent, and meaning you are understanding of the culture that I come from.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speaking with Gravity. I'm your host, Joshua Williams.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tana Williams.
And I am Kervin Searles, filling in for the infamous, the great Terrence Dawkins.
Yes, sir. We miss you, Terrence, but we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Yes, Terrence will be. He hasn't left us, y'all. He's joining us for a couple more some
Several,
more episodes.
yeah.
So he's not off the show, y'all.
He's just
Somewhere
always
having
doing
fun.
something.
Terrence be moving, man.
Yeah.
Terrence be moving on that bike. Yes, sir. Today, y'all, what we're talking about is reasons. So I'm going to say this. So we talk about a lot of reasons that therapy does work, why you should go see a therapist. Today, we're talking about reasons therapy might not work. Not saying therapy isn't a great tool, but thinking about why, possibly when might therapy not work for me. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And we want to start off kind of like we have been lately is with what people want to know, the question that we've been getting from people around this topic. And the question that we've been getting is, what questions should I ask to find the right therapist? So leading us right into our topic. But if I can hit y'all with that one real quick, Hannah and Kervin, especially Kervin, thinking about you and, you being the therapist, I think about, are you right for everybody, right?
No. I am absolutely not right for everybody.
Right.
And that is, I guess it changes for different people. They have to decide what's important to them. And what I mean by that is some people are, so for me, for instance, I'm well versed in therapeutic practices and interventions and so on and so forth. So if I'm going to vet a therapist, I'm gonna ask them, all right, so what theories or what interventions do you align yourself with? Most people in general are probably not gonna think about that. And it's important for me because I guess the basis of the way I provide therapy is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and Adlerian therapy. So somebody who is trying to do, I'm gonna say is it Gestalt or Gestalt? Gestalt therapy, which is shadow work. I'm not that I don't like it or I don't think is real or effective, but I don't think that I'm interested in it. So if somebody practiced that very heavily, I would go into it thinking that they're going to try to place that on me. And so I would kind of not avoid them, but I wouldn't be as interested in them. But that's because I have a background and a history of knowing different types of theories and practices and so on and so forth. But for a regular person, what questions should they ask? If you're going in for couples counseling, do the therapist have to be married? No. Can they be divorced? Yes. But you would want to know, what did they learn from that? If they are divorced, you would want to know that they've had a healthy relationship before.
Right.
I am less prone to talk with a person who is single because I have a wife and a family and the kids. And I would like for them to know that all of that is relevant, right? But those things may be, for me, they would be important. For somebody else, they might not be. I would like for somebody that's culturally competent, and meaning you are understanding of the culture that I come from, not just whether I'm black, white, brown, whatever, but also like I'm from the South. I say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. So somebody who is understanding of that, or we this is maybe a topic for me and you, Hannah, offline. But I would love to plan different trips for therapists, going to different countries, so we have more of a cultural
That diversity.
understanding of people that come from Colombia or people that come from Africa. So having like our actual training in those physical places that we have people that migrate to America on. But just are they culturally competent? Those are the things that come to my mind right away. It's probably a lot more, but those are the first ones that come to my mind. So
Yeah, how about you, Anna?
Yeah, I like those. I like those questions that you offered, and I just wanted to provide some clarification. Is that to what you said earlier about like therapy? I do believe that therapy does work, but maybe in your specific situation, therapy may not be working for you. So I just wanted to provide some clarification about that. That these are reasons why therapy may not be working for a specific person, or during a time in your life. But therapy definitely does work, and so some questions that I would want to ask a therapist is I would want to explore their similar to what Kervin just said, their culture, but more so their religion, because I feel like religion plays a large part of individuals' lives. Some people don't believe in religion, and some people are very faith-based. So I would want to ask a potential therapist, are you religious, and how does this impact your approach to therapy? In my personal experience, when I was seeking a therapist, I had two options. I had this younger therapist that was in the same sorority as me. I was like, oh yeah, we can have girl talk together. I'm gonna open up to her. And then I had this middle-aged lady that when I read her bio, I was like, okay, something about her just is very intriguing to me. But she wasn't younger. She was a little older. I did not know just by reading her bio if we could connect on that personable level. However, once I had phone consultations with both of them, the older woman was the one that I was like, okay, I can really connect with her, and it was because we shared the same faith principles. And then even like within our first couple of sessions, she didn't mention religion at all. She kind of let me be the driver, and she was in the passenger seat kind of guiding those sessions. But it was maybe 4 or 5 sessions in where she referenced a scripture. And I was like, I know this is the right therapist for me, because she's using core values that I use in my life, which is the Bible, being a Christian, being a believer, to help my healing journey. So I would definitely want to explore a therapist, religion. And then something else I would want to explore is how do you determine my counseling goals? I feel like as counselors and therapists, we all have different modalities that we specialize in. We all have different approaches. So by asking your potential therapist, how would you determine my specific counseling goals? Maybe they use some type of special techniques to measure your goals. Maybe they give homework. Maybe they don't give homework. So just understanding that about your therapist so that you know what to expect, so that there's no surprises on the back end. One thing I would say about my therapist is that she told me up front, yeah, I assign homework. And I was like, I'm in grad school. I'm like, honey, I already got enough homework as it is. Like, I'm coming to you to vent, to talk, to process some things from my past. I don't need any extra weight or any additional work, basically. But when she told me that, I was like, you know what? I signed up. This is what I signed up for. I gotta put in the work. And when you hear that word homework, you never know what to expect. But I was willing to put in that work, and it's not to say that it was lengthy work or intense work. It was just work. It was just work that I had to get serious about. So those are some questions that I would want to ask a potential therapist.
And a lot of times when you starting out, you don't know what you want, but
Right.
just think about what's important to you. You know, when she said that about the religion part, that's important to me as well. Um, but as a therapist, I don't sell myself as a Christian counselor. The thought is, if I saw myself as a Christian counselor, even though that's a part of me, that's strongly influences a lot of the things that I do. I don't lead in with that.
Right.
Similar to what you were saying with your experience, I don't. You come in for the first sessions, I'm not quoting scriptures, but if you do choose to quote scriptures, I know them. I have an understanding of them, and we can discuss it in that regard. But if that's important, then you will want to know: are you a Christian?
Right.
Do you go or and again, even with how I'm a Christian, would matter. Like some people are Christians, but they don't practice religious principles. They don't attend church or whatever. And other people are faithful and go several times. And that might be important to you because they need to understand that that's a part of your life.
Right.
Again, if somebody didn't go all the time, they may, and you're talking about how overwhelmed you are. One of the things that may come up is, are you going too much? And that's important to you. That's a thin line, so to speak. But just think about what's important to you,
Yeah.
and how they're going to view that or see that in dealing with whatever issue you came in for.
Yeah, I feel like then it's good. So we went over what questions maybe you should ask. Y'all gave some really great examples. Is there anything that you should lead with and let them know about you? Maybe like your expectations or
Oh yeah.
like what things would you lead with if you're the person that's going for or thinking about going for therapy and you thinking about selecting a therapist? We got some questions. But is there anything that y'all would lead with and y'all would
Yeah. I don't do this with every single person, but I try to give them a general idea of what to expect in therapy. So,
That's good.
like she was saying, that therapist said, I give homework. I've said that several times. I give homework. I also try to tell them how long the sessions are going to be. I do try to explain to them that I do cognitive behavior therapy. I do solution-focused therapy. I also do Adlerian therapy. I explain to them I don't know as much about. I'm not well versed in. I think it's EMDR. I'm not well versed in some of the other things that people are looking to right now. So I do give them some type of insight. But it's with me now. I'm feeling my way through the therapy session. For one person, they may need to know that. It may give them a comfort. Another person, they may come in like, all right, I'm ready to give this stuff to you. I don't care about what you do and how you do it. You can explain that to me later, but I'm giving you this business right now, and I'm gonna accept that for what it is. And at the right time, I'll share with them my thoughts.
I agree, and I feel like from the therapist approach to my clients is that I want my clients to know what I specialize in, so that if they're coming to me with a disorder or a condition or even just an issue that I don't have any experience in, I can let them know, like, hey, these are the areas I specialize in. You're coming to me about an eating disorder, and I have no experience in working with people with eating disorders. That's something I would want my potential client to know, because that right there can just be a disconnect. There's no reason why I should be offering services when I specialize in anxiety and depression and self-esteem issues to a person that's dealing with an eating disorder. It's just going to cause that imbalance, and that can lead to our topic of reasons why therapy doesn't work. And then one other something else I want to share is that I would want to let my clients know whether what to expect along the same lines of what to expect in person or virtually. Some counselors and therapists only offer virtual sessions. Some prefer in person. And then even I've, just from my experience, I've seen some therapists say start off virtually with a client and say, hey, I think you might need to come in. I think you might even need to bring, your mom in so that we can have a sit down talk. So, is that feasible? Because if you're seeing a therapist that lives 2 or 3 hours from you within the same state, of course, for insurance reasons, but if you're seeing a therapist that stays 2 or 3 hours from you, will that even be feasible in the future? So you just kind of want to know what to expect when it comes to locations.
I've had that where I've had a client that was not in my same location, and we did virtual, and everything went good. And that client was like, "All right, I think I want to do in person," and they came and did in person, and they noted in person is totally different from virtual. Both of them are good in their own respect, but they wanted to do more in person to offset the virtual experience. But they were able to do that because they knew how far, even though we're not in the same location, they were able to calculate, all right, how long it takes me to get there and so on and so forth. But it wasn't like no 7 or 8 hours from me in order to do it, which would be out of state. But it wasn't 4 or 5 hours to get to me.
And I want to highlight, this is more so along the logistics side and not so much of why therapy may not work for a person, but something you may also want to consider is your potential therapist, their schedule. Some therapists only offer morning sessions, or some only offer evening sessions. So, you want to have an idea of, okay, when am I going to be available for therapy? So that you can find a therapist that is offering sessions during that time. Because what you don't want to happen is you don't want therapy to be an inconvenience. That is one reason why therapy may not work, because it's just not convenient. Not saying that it's going to be easy, but it's not convenient,
To your schedule.
Yeah, to your schedule.
On both sides too, though. On both sides. Not only you as a person, like if you're forcing yourself to do a day session, but sometimes you go to a therapist and they want to help you really bad, and they normally don't see evening people, but you know what? I think I'm gonna see this person because I think I can help them. Now both they overextending themselves, and therapists do it too. We'll mess up our boundaries, and we'll say we're gonna accept this person. Now we can't commit the way we want to, or our schedule keep chopping up, and there's no continuity in services, and it can mess both sides up.
I'm glad that you highlighted that on both perspectives.
Hey, fill in this blank for me. I would hope you have a therapist who blank.
Listen. I would hope you had a therapist that listened or was non-judgmental and always learning. Always learning. I can never stop learning. I'm reading.
When you say learning,
learning.
Like learning about the person, or you mean learning more about
techniques, counseling, theories? Because there's always new things that come up. I'm more into brain science than I used to be when I first started.
Brain science.
Yeah, just understanding like how things affect your brain neurologically. And I'm not an expert at it. Don't ask me to give an example. But I do read it and like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
So it's challenging you. So
yes.
So your client is having that experience with your client is challenging you as a therapist.
Yeah. But going back to Hannah's point, I would tell you up front, I had people come in for OCD. All right, well, I'm not an expert at OCD.
Let them know that.
I'll let you know right off, I'm not an expert at OCD, and I actually don't know anybody I can refer them to, but I can help you find it, and you can come in and we could talk about some other things until you find that. But if they choose to do that, I'm going to go and learn in the process. I'm going to go and read some stuff. I'm going to go, if I can do, we got training online that we can do all the time. So I'll go find a training specifically dealing with that so I can get myself, become more knowledgeable of what I'm dealing with. But yeah, definitely try to, somebody who's always learning. You want a therapist that's always trying to learn.
And I feel like right now we're missing Terrence. He's our scientist behind behind all of this. He's the person that is so intrigued with how the brain works. Like he knows those chemical imbalances and names of all of the hormones off the top of his head. So shout out to you, Terrence. But can you repeat your fill in the blank?
Yeah, fill in the blank. I would hope you have a therapist who blank.
Yeah, so I would hope you have a therapist that has the ability to empathize. Similar to what Kervin was saying, you might have, there might be a difference of race or a difference of gender, even a difference of age in my perspective. But if you have a therapist that has that ability to empathize, and it's easier said than done. Like we're taught, have empathy for our clients, have empathy for situations, but it's a different thing to actually show it and to practice in that empathy. So I would really hope that you have a therapist that's able to empathize with you as a person and your experiences.
Yeah.
How about, so do y'all feel like
You just not gonna let her do her QD at all.
All right, I've been waiting.
please do the cutie?
I don't want you to lose your train of thought either, though. So
You be on it with the questions. The questions be
right.
on point.
I got one. I was
flowing
thinking
today.
But
about.
we want to give the people facts too.
Please,
Okay.
please, let's go. Yeah, please.
So let's
Thank
give
you.
the people the QD of the hour. Just another version of our fun facts through Speaking with Gravity. So more people are asking if therapy works. Searches for that question have doubled in the last 5 years. A therapy platform called Allen looked at about 7,000 clients and found that 65% of people in therapy have stopped seeing their therapist.
Wow.
The main issue? It often just isn't a good match. About 39% of people who ended therapy said they felt a lack of connection with their therapist. Additionally, 20% of people admitted to ghosting their therapist, which means they stopped going without telling them. So that's 26% of people that just completely ghosted their therapist.
I felt that.
In a time when many people are struggling with mental health issues, about 60% of adults don't get the help they need. It's clear that even though those who can access therapy aren't always finding the right support because they don't know how to find it. And this reference comes from Therapy Doesn't Always Work. Here's Why article from Hello Alma.
I wonder how many of those people are being clear with their therapist though about what they're not getting from it, right? Because I mean, they you would say, okay, what questions? And I think this is a great episode because you're letting those people know what questions they should ask up front. And I wonder how many of those people aren't being clear about their expectations.
It's probably a lot, but I try to say this in therapy at some point. This is your life.
Yeah.
And the goal is to be person centered. So you lead this. So if you got a question or if I'm not helping you, I think around about the third or fourth session, I try to come back and say, hey, are we helping? Is this or what we doing is it working in whatever capacity? Because if it's not, we need to stop. We need to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
Maybe I'm not a good fit. Maybe we need to get you another therapist, or maybe you're not being honest with me. You're coming in saying I want to talk about communications with my wife, but I really just got trust issues. But we're working on this communication. Or maybe you have body issues, but you telling me something else, and we haven't been working on body issues.
Not being honest.
You gotta be honest. I think it was Chris Rock that was talking about it on the Breakfast Club a few years ago. He was like, therapy didn't work for me until I got honest about what I was giving to my therapist. I was going and it's cool, but until I was honest, it didn't work.
Is there a way that that you tried to pull that honesty out of people? I don't know. That's immediately where my mind goes. Cause you're gonna have people who they haven't been doing the work that a lot of us have done of looking inside and of being truthful with ourselves. Is there anything that you all try to do as someone that's counseling
For
someone?
For me, of course, I can't make anybody be honest.
Right.
But creating, as they say now, that safe space, being non-judgmental, people are more likely to be honest. when he doesn't judge me for what I have given him, when he isn't surprised. Now, I'm real bad with my facial expressions, right? Some people are stoic and they don't give any. Nah, not me. I'm making facial expression. Oh, for real? That happened?
That's good, though.
But with me having those facial expression, I want you to know I'm not judging. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just I didn't know it. I wasn't expecting. I tell them I wasn't expecting that.
Authentic though.
Yeah, very authentic. But as over time, I have had people over time connect differently and become more honest or more forthcoming. And now we can really get to the root of the problem, or we can really start working because you become more forthcoming.
You almost have like I think in a lot of people's minds who haven't been to therapy, it's like that really stoic therapist sometimes who just like straight stone faced and no emotion at all. And it's like, how am I gonna connect with this person, right? So if I'm going to a therapist and I already have in my mind like that it's gonna be hard to connect, then that's a barrier right there. What I like that you said is like you're being human, really. You're making those expressions and all that. You're being human, and I think that helps the other person to relax and be kind of vulnerable when you can do that.
Right. And I think it comes down to being authentic. But also a lot of people are not honest with themselves. Like Kervin was saying, you know, if you can't be honest with yourself, it's very hard to be honest with your therapist, another person.
Say that again.
So
Peep in the back.
So I feel like that's a disconnect there to why individuals can ghost their therapist. And I want to relate it to like a relationship, because as counselors, we're often taught like, you know, your relationship with your client, that is a professional relationship. That is a relationship. And so I want to connect it to like a romantic relationship to say, okay, if your needs are not being met in a romantic relationship, you're going to have that conversation. You know, you're going to sit down and say, hey, you know, my emotional needs, my sexual needs are, you know, my physical needs are not being met in this way.
What we going to do about it? Yeah.
How can we change this?
Yeah.
You know, how can we change this? And so you have to have that same conversation in the professional relationship to say, hey, my needs are not being met. You know, how can we change this? Do you have the ability to change it? Are we able to adjust my goals some? You know, or do I even have the right goals for my issues? So I think it definitely starts with being authentic, honest. Those characteristics really, really matter when it comes to having the right therapist and therapy ultimately working.
She brought a thought to my mind. If your therapist can't have uncomfortable conversations, that might not be the therapist for you. And whatever that uncomfortable conversation could be privilege or racism, but it also could be sexuality, right? And if they can't have that with you, they only can go so far.
Right.
Because they can't have that conversation. I've watched myself grow as a therapist. There are certain things that I couldn't discuss in the beginning that I can discuss now. It's very few things that I feel uncomfortable with discussing right now. One of those, I don't think a perpetrator of sexual assault or sexual abuse, that would be difficult for me. That's an uncomfortable conversation for me.
If they've been
a perpetrator.
Okay.
Maybe I should say more so of a willing perpetrator. And what I mean by willing, like just I want to do this, I'm doing it repeatedly, and that's uncomfortable for me. And so I'm not going to work with that client. I'm going to refer out. When I say I'm not going to work with them, because I know it's uncomfortable for me or whatever the reasons, I'm going to try to get them to help, but it won't come from me because I'm not going to be beneficial for them. So.
What I like about this show is we're giving people information on some of the things they need to do before they go to therapy. So when we talk about mindfulness, when we talk about doing introspection and all that, these are things that you want to start doing before, you know. I mean, you don't have to wait, right? But if you do, then it's gonna allow you, I think, to open up more. When we talk about, when you actually get to your therapist, you're gonna have those type of questions that are relevant to choosing whether or not this is a good therapist for me.
I'm glad you highlighted that, because these are I mean, the purpose why, one of the reasons why Curvin even created Speaking with Gravity is to have casual conversations within our community. We may have mental health experience, but we don't want to have those mental health that mental health lingo. We want to just have very casual and informal conversations so that our audience, you all, can understand, okay, how do I feel? How can I get help? What are the resources and what are the steps to get help? So I'm really glad that you highlighted that.
And I think if you have a bad experience, or experience that doesn't really fit you as far as therapy, I don't think you should give up, right? I mean, if you think about it, you continue to date, right? And
Right.
at the end of the day, like, your healing is a journey. You might meet people on your healing journey that don't supposed to be there, right? It happens in relationships and everything. You definitely done met people who was like, okay, you were cool, but this ain't for me.
Right.
So continuing to, treat it as a learning experience too. If it wasn't right for you, then how can I take that ownership on myself to, choose a better therapist next time, choose someone who aligns more with my values, like y'all have been saying.
And I even want to add to that from my personal experience is that before I even started therapist with my therapist, who I've been working with for maybe over three or 4 years at this point, I knew I needed therapy like 5 years before that, and during that phase, I was like, okay, I probably do need therapy. This is probably, this situation probably could use therapy, to process from. But within that 5-year span, I wish I had a resource like this to just listen to so that I could get more understanding about what to expect from therapy. And I didn't have that. So it kind of was just like, okay, I'm going to deal with all of this stuff, all of these situations, all of these issues by myself, because I didn't have that in-between phase. Like, I wasn't ready to start therapy. Let me just say that. I was not ready to start therapy yet, but I wish I had that in-between phase, to talk to somebody about what to expect. So I'm very appreciative for this platform. And it was something else I wanted to say. I completely forgot.
Why you feel like you weren't ready, though? You don't mind me asking.
I wasn't ready to put in the work. I was so focused on my education and my career goals, and I just wanted some financial stability. That was my focus at the time, that I wasn't ready to put in the emotional work at the time.
Kind of start prioritizing.
Yeah, looking back, I should have did both at the same time, but I was like, okay, well, once I get to this point, once I reach this goal in life, then, it will create some time for me to work on that emotional, that emotional side. But if I was emotionally mature, I would have done both at the same time. I would have at least started.
Do you think doing them both at the same time, do you think that could have helped you with some other things? Like
Most definitely. Yeah. Like, if I had the emotional intelligence that I had way before I even picked a career, I don't believe I would have picked a profession, my initial profession that I was pursuing at the time, because my objective was more so lucrative and not purpose driven. So yeah, definitely healing and putting in the work and just learning my own self-awareness and becoming more authentic and honest with myself definitely would have changed a lot in my life. Which is why I advocate for people to go to therapy sooner than later. Don't wait for that don't wait for the right time. It's never really the right time. You just have to like motivate yourself for it to be the right time.
What you think is the right time could come off as late.
Right.
A lot of times we don't go, and when we finally go, we depressed. If you had a went before, you would have saw, all right, this is a pattern that's leading up to the symptoms aligned with depression, or the pattern that's leading up to the symptoms of anxiety, or many of the other plethora of diagnoses, right? But going back to one of your statements, I think it was Josh, you said you have to find, you can't stop trying to find the right therapist, or something to that extent.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to highlight.
And, I think about it, church and therapy. People will have one bad experience and they won't go back no more.
Like with church too?
Yeah. But you go to that club and you have a bad experience, you're going to go to another one. You have a bad experience with a bad barber, you're going to go to another. You're going to stop getting your hair cut.
Right.
It's so many other things that we just keep on trucking and trying until we get the right fit for us. But as church and therapy, and I don't want to put really them together. They two separate entities, but
I see what you're saying.
I see it all the time. You have a bad pastor. Oh man, church ain't nothing but a fake and da da da.
Why
You got a
though?
bad therapist.
I wonder why.
In my estimation, people have so much faith in sometimes the individual, and sometimes the system or the entity, and when it doesn't work for them, now they feel ostracized, or they feel alienated, or they just feel failed, like that entity or that person failed them. I simply may not be the right person for you. And look, I have had sessions with people, initial sessions with people, meant to call them back. I done forgot to call them back. And when I say forgot to call them back, like I have an initial assessment. Typically, I'm going to set up the next session while I'm there. Okay. Let's say I got a heavy day, all right, and I got back-to-back sessions. We have a great initial evaluation. I write it up. I'm trying to get my next person in, and I say, hey, I don't have the time to set up the next session. Call me back, or I'll call you back. Or I might even say, I'll call you back. I'm going to write this up, and I'll call you back. And I usually write my notes like within 24 hours. So I might write it up that night. Well, I can't call him that night. I'm supposed to call him back the next day. I don't call him back to the next day. Here 2 weeks done went by. Oh, my God, I forgot to call this person back. I call him back. I missed them. Or we play phone tag, and then it comes off like, I don't care. You had this great session with me. You gave your stuff to me. I took it. I received it. But then I left you hanging in your mind. Sometimes I'm able to make up for it and apologize, and sometimes I'm not. But you can't take that bad experience with me and say therapy doesn't work. I ain't gonna say just move on, but give somebody else a chance to make up for what I did wrong. And I've done some wrong stuff like that, and not meant it. But just don't give up. Just keep trying until you find that right fit. So.
And thank you for being honest to share, like,
yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, thank you for being honest to share that example. But you sharing that example allowed me to remember the other thought that I wanted to share, which was like, our topic today is reasons why therapy doesn't work. You just might not have the right therapist, and a solution to that is to keep trying. You don't have to get stuck on one therapist for the rest of your life. Find the right therapist for you. And even when you have found the right therapist, like, that therapist can be very effective for you for a period of your life. Well, after that period of life, that therapist may no longer serve you.
What?
So it's completely okay to find another therapist. It is completely okay. My thing is what I want to suggest to people is never ghost your therapist. Unless it's an emergency, never ghost your therapist. There's always a conversation to have, whether it's a phone conversation, just a termination session, but never ghost your therapist, because you don't know what type of tools or resources they can connect you to the next person. Kervin just said, I may not work with that person anymore, but I can suggest and connect them to somebody else, to another resource. So never ghost your therapist if they're not a good fit for you, if they're not working for you.
I love it. I think that's wisdom. I think that's wise. Like, because it may be something that even if you're trying to leave your therapist, it may be something that you can learn from them, from that remaining
that
conversation.
termination.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna tell y'all something. So I get sidetracked, right? And the question we had about it was a question from a question about the church and therapy, right? Why are those two? Why do people go to those two, and then they let that experience dictate,
give up,
the rest of their life? They don't want to mess with church no more. They don't want to mess with therapy no more. As opposed to someone like the club. And you gave a good answer. I forgot what you said, man.
They have so much faith in the individual or the entity, and when it doesn't help them, now they feel like, all right, let me move on to the next thing. And you're not gonna find anything else. You're not. You're gonna put all your energy into that, and it's gonna serve you however it serves you for a period of time. But
can I tell you how I feel about it?
Go ahead. Break it down.
Yeah. So I feel
so
like
it can forever and consistently be broke. That was a line from a movie called Love Jones, and he said, "Do you break it down? Can you break it down? Yes, break it down so it can forever and consistently be broke."
Dude, have you seen Love Jones?
Yes, I have, and I know the reference.
Do he sound like that dude? His voice?
I wouldn't say they sound alike, but as soon as
You
he
talk
said the
like
words,
him.
Nah,
Yeah,
you
Lorenz Tate.
just she caught it.
Oh my
And
gosh, you talk like
once
him.
you caught it, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. You talking about Lorenz Tate?
Yeah, you kind of talk like him.
Nah.
Man, go watch. Listen, go watch.
I gotta watch it again.
Shout out to Lorenz Tate.
Shout out Lorenz Tate. He talks like you.
By the way, Love Jones is my favorite movie of all
Really?
time.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I know, I mean, I love it to death. But shout out to Lorenz Tate. I don't want to be like you, but I ain't mad at the comparison either. I think I'm older than him.
Y'all kind of sound like
Nah.
him. It's crazy. But church and therapy, I think people expect like church is supposed to be like church and therapy is supposed to be almost like perfect, right? It's set up. The idea is like I'm supposed to be made whole. I'm supposed to be this, and so if I have a bad experience, like no, as like I'm totally turned off from it. Whereas something like the club is like I don't expect that to be like we smoking, we drinking, we having fun in here. If I have a bad experience there, I didn't expect it to be perfect in the first place.
Yeah, but you know what gets me, right? You don't expect for it to be perfect. What gets me is they just got the shooting up here last week, and you back. But
I'm
let
not
somebody
expecting-
cuss at church or let the therapist not call you back. You not back the next week, but you got shot at, and you back.
And I think another thing is like all the noise, like people telling me, "Oh man, church, man."
Oh, it's overrated.
Yeah, church,
Oh, okay,
man.
okay,
Like
okay.
it's them people they go to church too much. Like
I get that.
they all this. And the same thing with therapy. There are misconceptions about therapy, and that's why this podcast is even here to educate people, right? And so like if I already got these misconceptions, and everybody is telling me, man, you crazy if you go to therapy, just crazy stuff that you hear about it. It's like when I actually go and it don't work, oh y'all was right.
Yeah.
And same thing with church. Oh y'all was right.
Yeah. Hannah had said something earlier about, I think she was referring to herself when she said, I wasn't ready to do the work. Mm-hmm. When we talk about therapy, it's cool now to be like, yeah, I'm in therapy. I got a therapist.
It's cool.
But that therapist is more than just sharing your stories with them. It's more than just, oh, this is what happened to me this week. You got to put in work.
Right.
So when homework is assigned, and I tell people, I'm going to give you homework. But when I give you homework, whether you do it, and I will say this in session, if you don't do it, you let me know whether you're ready to do the work or not. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that everybody that don't do their homework they not ready? No, it don't mean that. But if you consistently not doing your homework, it absolutely means that.
Right.
You might miss it the first week, or I might give you something that you didn't want to engage in. You didn't want to come out of your comfort zone on. I get that. And therapy isn't, we've said this when we first started this podcast, it's not a linear process. Mm-hmm. It's not straightforward like you're going up the hill. Sometimes it's valleys, and you're going up and down. Mm-hmm. As you're going upward, you're going up and down. Mm-hmm. But you got to be willing to do the work. And doing the work is not only sharing your story, but facing the music. When that therapist shows you your pattern, or as y'all having these conversations, you realize, oh, wow, I did this because of this. Because you're going to have those aha moments because they're asking you questions and they diving into it. You're going to have them. You can't just say, oh, aha, and then go out and do the same thing. What am I going to do with this aha moment? What's my response going to be now that I know this about myself? So that can be heavy sometimes. It can really be. I done had some heavy sessions. Where I done had to say, I had such a heavy session I had to cancel the rest of my day.
Wow.
We had to cancel the rest.
Cancel the rest of my day. It was like, all right, I can't. Wow. It was heavy. It was a breakthrough. I'm just gonna say it was a breakthrough. And then sometimes we get triggered. I've been triggered as well. So if I'm dealing with somebody with grief, sometimes it'll connect me back to my father. But I had a really, really difficult one. Well, not difficult one, but it was a breakthrough. It was heavy. I think I had like 2 more sessions the rest of that day, or maybe 3. But I had a break in between. So I just called and was like, hey, I can't finish the day out. Gave myself a breathing, took care of myself, and then I was back up and at them the next day. But I had to recognize it. I had to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. And if you don't practice, you said what kind of therapist you need to have. If your therapist don't practice what they preach, you don't need them. You don't need them.
And just along those same lines, I want to share an example. And this was when I was in grad school. This was a learning moment for me about why therapy can work and some reasons why it cannot work. And one of those reasons is my supervisor when I was in grad school, it was a learning moment. He told me, like, you know, this lady, she has daddy issues, basically, you know. And I said, well, he basically told me that, and I was like, well, if she has daddy issues, then maybe she should. And this woman was very sensitive, very emotional. So I was like, and I knew my supervisor, he was kind of rough around the edges, like straightforward about it. I was like, well, you know, maybe be a little more gentle with her, you know, maybe be a little more softer. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, maybe she needs a female therapist. And I kind of alluded to that during that conversation. And he said, Hannah, think outside of the box. If she struggles with daddy issues, she's challenging herself to have a black male figure. If she struggles with daddy issues and also authority when it comes to male figures, she's challenging herself to have a therapist that's a black male, you know. And that's work right there. To even say, hey, it will be easy to talk to a female about my daddy issues. It will be easy to talk to a female and have that female relationship, but it will be more of a challenge and more work to sit down and talk to another black male about to talk to a black male, period, about this situation. So that was a learning moment to me, that sometimes a person can allow gender to be that, to serve as that disconnect, when you may need a therapist of the opposite gender for whatever issue you may be experiencing and going through. So that was just a learning moment for me.
Hannah, I want to go back, and I don't want to put you on Front Street. If I do, just tell me, be quiet, put it back on me. But you had mentioned earlier, it can be hard to empathize with a client as a therapist. Could you give like an example of that, or I guess clarify that for somebody in general? I'm trying to think what I was thinking when you said that, but I'll give my thoughts.
So I'll even feed off of the example you used earlier when you said it's hard to have a client that may be a perpetrator of some type of sexual abuse.
Oh, okay. I got
So,
you.
you know, it's hard for you to empathize with someone that has voluntarily and maybe repetitively harmed a female,
Right,
or
okay.
harmed a child. You know, it's just hard for it may
I
be
can't
hard for
imagine
you
it,
to
yeah.
it may be hard for you to empathize with that person's experience, or more so with that person's issue.
Right.
So that's why I said sometimes it is hard. Like, us therapists and counselors, we're taught how to empathize with people in general, but specific issues, it can be hard to empathize with. And that's where self-awareness comes in. We have to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. Perfect example. Because you talking about sympathy, you feel sorry for that person, but you talking about empathy. Can I understand that? I can't understand repeated sexual assault against a female. I don't understand. There's certain things in the world that I just cannot understand, nor try to. And so in that case, perfect example. Wanting to clarify that up for anybody that was listening. So
Most definitely. Thank you for that.
Beautiful, y'all. I'm feeling. So I tell you this, I feel a lot better. I'm never going to therapy, but I feel like I've gained some insight from today's episode.
you should try it, Josh.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you
I'm
should
thinking
try
about it. I'll tell you something. So
Do you want to
I've
tell
done
me out live?
No, I'm gonna tell you something. So I've done I can never say it's enough. Like, but I've done like some like introspection and stuff like that, and that's been really valuable for me. Really valuable for me. So I feel like I would be more open to a therapist because I have did my fair share of looking inside, and being comfortable enough, and also Just feeling like I feel like from being on this podcast, and from knowing you all, good counselors, good therapists, that I feel confident about finding someone, that I would feel comfortable, like talking through things with. So it's helped me. This podcast has helped me, maybe in that regard.
Yeah. It's gotten you more comfortable with the ideal of therapy and finding good people to carry out that service.
I've got more comfortable over these past, however many seasons that I've been on here. So
you should know by now, because you would say that a lot. I've been on here for however many seasons. Like, you should know.
I just roll with it, man.
This is your homework. I challenge you on your next episode.
I'm not your client.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Time out. But I'm really glad that you recognize that, you have been doing that internal work. I will say that I'm proud of that, and I'm happy to hear that. But I just want to remind you, as well as other people, that work that you're doing, internally, it doesn't replace therapy. But like Kervin said, it makes it more comfortable, and you're able to process. Whenever you do decide to go to therapy, you have already processed some situations and some issues in your brain, so that you're here like, hey, this is what I want to talk to you about.
I can actually put words to
right,
it.
right, and bring examples and bring experiences and bring relationships into it, and you're not just starting from a blank slate. And wanting your therapist to take that driver role, you're able to take that driver role, and your therapist will just be like, okay, I'm the passenger. I'm here to guide this journey.
And when people talk about like introspection and like looking within, and you'll hear a therapist say, all right, that's the beginning. Why is that just the beginning? Because everything makes sense in your head. In your head, it makes perfectly good sense. But when you're asked to process that, when you're asked questions to explain what's inside of your head, now as it's coming out, you're like, wait a minute, that made sense then, but now that I'm explaining it, it don't quite go together. Or that they can take what you said that made sense, and they can take 3, 4, 5 of them and say, hey, you see this pattern right here? 6, 7 of them, you see this pattern right here? When you're living your life, I've said this before, when you're living your life, you're just living your life. But when you have to go back, explain what you did and how you moved, and you're like, wow, I did this because of this. There was a period of time, I've said this too before, I was so angry. That anger came from my dad passing away. I was extremely angry for about 2-3 years. Boy, I was a little fireball. And in the time that I was doing it, it was like, oh, I'm young, I'm having fun. Yeah, my dad had passed, but that's not the reason. No, it was definitely the reason. I dealt with my grief through anger and ready to pop off at any time. Thankfully, through God's grace and mercy, prayers of people, that I didn't get in trouble as a result of that. But looking back on it, going through therapy, talking about it, it's like, yeah, I was really angry at my dad's passing, sudden passing at that. So yeah, that introspection is very good, but it's one of the steps to kind of help towards that complete healing, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They should make I was gonna say they should make
a movie with me.
You should have your own movie. But I was gonna say, they should make mental health. Do they get into it like in schools? Like
Yeah.
in the school system they do.
Yeah, it's in school way more now than it ever was before. As far as I can't say every school, but a lot of schools, like even from the start of this podcast, I think there might have been a handful, because we started this podcast in 2020. And from 2020 to now, I think every school in this area has a mental health counselor accessible to them. I can't say that mental health counselor is there every single day, but they are accessible within the district.
But I mean, you know how they've started in many areas, like financial literacy, like little workshops and stuff like that. Do they do that for mental health? I wonder.
In the schools or just in
In the
general?
schools.
I don't know, Josh.
I mean, that would be kind of dope just to have that awareness out there, because I know they do things like financial literacy. That's like a big one right now. But
Well, I think I would say yes. There's an event that they recently had, the Deltas put on, where they had mental health. I think a mental health breakout session that I was a part of. And last year, I would get calls 2-3 times a year. Hey, can you come speak on mental health? So people in the community are doing it. Of course, there are podcasts more so than us that are doing it as well. Is it like a class? I can't say that, but word is getting out about mental health awareness.
And we can even shout out like quarantine and the effects of quarantine and COVID too, like pushing this movement of mental health, you know, because as we see the effects, and we were talking about like school age children and in schools, as we see the effects of COVID and that isolation from quarantine, what that had on school age students, now we see, okay, we need counselors. We need some more mental health services inside of our schools to help our students and our kids. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Like, it's always incredible just how conversations can bring enlightenment, and I'm able to learn more just just by having a conversation.
Yeah, I said this previously, but just to see y'all growth, man. Overall, Josh, to see your growth as I would consider you. You know, we don't put it out here, but I would consider you like the lead host, right? You kind of set the conversation up, and just to see you grow from season 4, sir, up until now is amazing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Hannah came in season 5 as like a guest host, and then just develop into a permanent host. That was dope. And of course, I'm having to try to fill these big shoes of Terrence Dawkins right now. The dynamic of y'all three together, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's something that I wanted when I started the podcast in 2020, and it's ballooned and developed into what it is now. Cannot wait to see y'all in a live setting. And hopefully we can plan that in future episodes, and hopefully by the end of this year get into a situation where we have a live audience to talk about mental health.
Well, just thank you for your vision, Kirby, and like thank you for your vision, your leadership, and also shout out to Winston behind the camera, that's able to bring all of this to light through technology. So thank you all for the work that you all do.
Definitely. And thanks, Curry, for hopping in with us, man, on this episode, filling in those big shoes.
Yeah.
And once again, y'all, it's been another great episode. Continue to be vigilant about your mental health. And, when you're thinking about a therapist, make sure you have those questions that you have some from this episode. List of questions that you want to ask to make sure that you're choosing the right therapist. Make sure that you're setting yourself up, positioning yourself for a successful therapeutic experience. You definitely want to do that. So we definitely challenge you all to do that, and challenge you to reach out to us as well. Hannah says it, reach out and let us know what you want to hear about, right? If we're missing any gaps, help us to fill in the gaps, So we look forward to getting that from you. Please like, comment, and share. Share with your friends and your family. We think that everybody needs to hear this, hear this information. And it's been another great episode. We look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Y'all take care until next time.